Hey guys, it is time for part two. My interview with Tim Rosen. Man, last week was so much fun. Today we're diving in deep. We're looking into Tim's crystal ball, if you will. We're making a lot of guesses. We're talking about the future of currency, Bitcoin, what industries have been shaken up and will always be forever changed now after this pandemic and the economic shutdown that happened. So here we go. Part two, my interview with Tim Rosen. So I grouped questions into what I call practical, like, this is my situation, what do I do? Now we're going to get into a little bit more speculative. I got a question. How long do you think this recession will last?
Okay, so let's talk about that. Sometimes that's asked from a position of fear or concern, as if a recession is bad for investing. I trust that this is pretty much an investing conversation. The evidence shows that there's no correlation. Correlation means that, both things move equally. Oh, recession is bad, so markets are down. No, they're not closely related. This recession is brought on by an illness, and people are fearful people sell. When you sell, it floods the market with supply. When supply goes up, demand goes down, price goes down. The evidence shows that, go back as far as we want, 1926, for every year of recession in the United States, the markets have exceeded that percentage rate of inflation by 4 or 6%. So don't let recession give you pause for investing. Markets are separate from recession, especially when you're in 45 different countries. Yeah. So we'll do well with recession, and we want to look at a definition. We can say maybe we're in the start of it, but there's actually this independent board who officially slams the gavel and says, all right, we're finally in recession, as measured by 6 consecutive months of our output being decreased. That's recession. You say recession, people who haven't been through one think, what, in the end of the world, gas lines like the 70s. So, hey, it is a normal part of an economic cycle. Don't be afraid of it, but position yourself, be healthy, and even benefit through it.
I love it.
But to get back to it could be several months.
Yeah.
So the Great Recession of 2008, that was very problematic. There were things broken. So let's do a little quick history lesson there. I want you to remember that. What started that problem, in part, was government pushing mortgage companies. We ought to have the freedom to say, no, you're not a good fit for me. No, you have bad credit. I can't give you a mortgage. But the government says, no, you will. So you've got these bad credit mortgages. Then they get bundled with others and sold as investments. After all, what could go wrong? They're not making any more dirt. Real estate always goes up. Yeah. Banks invested in those things, not understanding them. And to quote the CEO of Downey Savings, for the first time in our history, we invested in something that we knew nothing about. And then it was a poop storm, right? And everything fell. But people lost their homes. Millions of people were impacted by their mortgages. Banks failed and they were out of business. So there was a lot of cleanup, a lot of fixing, a lot of lack of trust and confidence in banks and financial institutions. So that took years to recover. What are we dealing with now? Fear and response to a legitimate virus concern. And in the short term, there's layoffs, but companies have had the time not to panic, but to think, okay, let's make some adjustments. Restaurants are doing takeout. So we see some pivots, which is good and healthy. We see layoffs as, they're going out of business. Well, some might, but others may pivot. And as soon as we're given the green light, whenever that is, whatever shape that is, you and I, Americans, are chomping at the bit to get out and to return back to life, to shop again, to go back to work. So we're going to see recovery take off like a rocket. You don't want to miss it.
I love it. Do you think, you talk about the banks, how we just didn't have confidence in banks and they suffered. Do you see the confidence in, and this is very speculative, do you see the confidence in travel, specifically air and cruise? Do you see that being impacted at all by this pandemic, or do you think we'll just go back to normal in 6 to 12 months? I know it's not really an investment question per se, but it's a more of a confidence question. What are your guesses?
Americans are very forgetful in a very short period of time. We may, be cautious for a little bit, but as soon as happy days are here again, we throw caution to the wind, we're back. I think great things are going to come from this. I do a lot of traveling, and leisure-wise, Disney has always been on top of cleanliness, and there's only so much they can do to stop the spread. But I think from this, look at we went to Target and we practiced social distancing and self-checkout. They got someone disinfecting everything you touch in between every customer. How much of that is going to go away? I think we're going to learn to be a little bit more thoughtful in cleanliness, hygiene, and germ warfare, so to speak. But we will absolutely get back to travel. We're Americans. Yeah. We love our free markets. We love our freedoms. We will absolutely get back to travel.
Awesome. Speaking of industries, what new industries do you think are going to pop up that will shutter maybe some of their brick and mortar counterparts, but pivot online? So in other words, what are we going to see? What industries are going to see a major disruption from this? And I think of the cliche how Netflix going digital took out Blockbuster. What industries do you think are being forced to change right now?
We're going to see great things, and they're already in their incubation period, and it's because of technology. Look, disruptive technology, it tends to always be good. Who is begrudging the fact that we don't have a telephone tethered to the wall anymore, right? And even this has progressed, and it has mutated out of necessity, sometimes out of pure, I'm going to create something that you're going to want. Steve Jobs, you had iPad. Who needs an iPad? Well, it wasn't a need until he created the need. So look, there is survival of the fittest. Blockbuster refused to change. One of the original founders of IBM blew it because he says, I see the need for maybe 12 computers in the whole world. Okay, wrong thinking.
Right.
Now, Netflix didn't take off because Blockbuster failed. Blockbuster is just a great example of a bad example of not thinking ahead, of not keeping up, not forward thinking, and not changing your model. Kodak and Polaroid didn't change until it almost killed them, or it did kill them. Like, okay, we're going to go into digital now. I know we were against it. So now think about all the creative people. Now, I'm creative in my area, but think of all the creative people stuck at home right now with time to be more creative.
Yeah.
You can think of Disney Imagineering. You can think of people in your wheelhouse. No doubt. The fact that you and I are doing this right now is testimony of technology. Can you imagine? Zoom is taking off. Now, guess what? Skype's like, oh, yeah, me too. And FaceTime's like, okay, yeah, we'll do free group, but hey, first to market, first is Zoom that we're on right now. So you're going to see through technology just tons. I'm excited about more remote working. I have been working remotely in addition to the office that you've physically been to, Alex, but I've served my clients from other countries, from other states. They didn't know I was in the Philippines, whether I was in Hawaii, New Zealand, or Australia. Because of cloud-based computing, because of technology, I'm able to serve them. Now that many people are being forced to work at home, take our military, for instance, without giving out too much information. I don't think they were prepared to have their workforce that are work from home by telecommuting. Okay, so now infrastructures are hastily being built and strengthened. 5G was already in the works, right? So maybe that while 5G hasn't been rolled out yet, what's next? Faster connection speeds, more tools to help you and I work from home. I've always been a fan. Many people are hesitant to that, but I think it's going to open doors. So let's look. You mentioned something that's going to maybe crush brick and mortar. Every advancement, it's actually more growth domestic product, not working backwards. Brick and mortar it's not going to go away because you and I love the personal experience. I still want to try on a suit. I still want the experience. And Disney is a great example of that. When you go to a place and you enjoy the experience, maybe they hand you a cup of coffee or tea and you sit down over here and they bring some things out to you. That human element experience is never going to go away. Those embrace it and do it well in brick and mortar, they're going to do well. Others are going to be replaced by technology, and that's part of the free markets. You and I, the consumer, dictate that.
Yeah, I love that. I love the answer. Kind of talking about a little bit about brick and mortar, one of the questions I got was about real estate investing. And I know that's it's a whole different ballgame really, but do you think, it's a two-part question. One, do you see a long-term impact in commercial real estate now that more people are working remote? And two, when it comes to investing, are you a quote unquote believer in buying rental properties as a retirement tool? I know your answer, but I'd love to hear it on the podcast.
Sometimes I believe that some people have an idea of how rental income can be their retirement, and then there's reality. So I'm not a big fan of it. Number one, you've got to have that stomach for it. You've got to take on the risk. There are so many other risks involved with that plan than other means of retirement income where we can actually eliminate a lot of those risks. We're seeing one right now where groups and even state governors, California state governor is considering, okay, well, let me give some relief to renters. Well, you're the landlord, you've got your mortgage to pay, but the renter has rights and freedoms, and so you've got all of these risks. So it's not as rosy a picture as they always paint it. Hey, if I can get my payment here and I can rent it from here, I've got this cash flow, except for all of the expenses and fees and risks that you have. So there's just better ways, I would say, to eliminate a lot of those unnecessary individual risks and diversify your risks. Now, real estate's in our portfolio. So through diversification, we're benefiting, and my clients are benefiting from real estate, but without putting so much risk into 1, 2, or 3 properties, you're still not diversified. I had a client come up to me during the banking and the housing crises, tears in her eyes, very successful realtor. And she invested in what she knew. She had 18 properties. Oh. And tearfully, she says, Tim, I got to let go of 15 of them. It's a business decision.
Painful.
Not diversified.
Yeah.
And some people never recovered from that.
Yeah. Yeah. What about commercial real estate? Do you see, we're playing a guessing game here, but do you see that taking a hit from more workers going remote?
Well, none of us have a crystal ball. Yet, I can't say that I would say yes, because look at there's still physical products. Physical products need to be distributed.
Right.
In our area, we're looking at a new distribution plan for Amazon, and it's not just Amazon. So it may take a different form. Again, it's the mutation, it's the altering, it's the pivot. Things still need to be manufactured. We've got a big bus manufacturing company here, Clean Air and all that. So there'll always be a need for brick and mortar. I had a brick and mortar office back in the days where I thought bigger was better, okay? We lost that during the downturn of the real estate crisis. We actually bought at the peak, no one knew it. And now I realize, I can actually serve my clients better and more personally and not have a big office building.
Yeah, nice. Last question on the speculative part, and then I'd love to talk about your books. What are your thoughts on cryptocurrency and the future of paper money?
Okay, cool. When cryptocurrency first came out, so-called as an investment, I did 2 podcasts warning against it, and I proved to be correct. You don't want to invest in something that you don't understand or you think it's the next big thing, and you're still going to speculate. Many, many, many people got hurt. So when we look at it as a form of currency, let it be. If it is, it is. most of us are already participating in it. I have sent my guitar instructor, boop, I just sent you $50 digitally, never touched the cash. We are already mostly in a cashless society. Not that cash is bad, but we're already in the digital mode. So that's not going to be a huge shift for consumers to make. So on the one aspect is the utilization of it as currency. No problem. It's still going to be based on the US dollar. Here's why. The US dollar, a currency, always has to have something to back up its value. The problem, especially in the infancy stages with cryptocurrency, is how do I know what the thing is worth?
Right.
Who is backing this thing up? In the United States, it's our government. I've been to many countries. In some countries, why do you need like 2,000 of their dollars to equal one of our dollars? Well, it's because of lack of strength in that government. So the key to a currency is what is backing it up. The the pound has long time been a higher value than the US dollar. So then there's the investing side of it. Okay. Well, I'd rather have in that haystack, right, a couple of companies who also invest in that as part of a fund of 400 or 500 companies in one fund that I own. Some are going to fail, some are going to succeed. So what? Rather than speculate and say, okay, I want to buy $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, that just go to Vegas and you'll have.
I love it. Yeah. I was definitely, when I saw a lot of my friends in the entrepreneur space investing, I thought, man, am I missing out on something? And then you and I had a very brief conversation where you basically shared exactly what you did now. And I'm like, I'm going to let this play out. Thank God I did not take the jump.
Good for you.
Yeah. So, because a lot of the people that I know well lost their shirt going in on Bitcoin when it was rising to the top. So
yeah,
let's talk about how, number one, how people can connect with you, and two, the resources that you have available to people, even if they cannot work with you one-on-one, your books. The first book, Faith and Finances, love it. I actually have, not to brag, but I have a signed copy in my bookcase. So
that's right.
I highly recommend it. Would you mind giving a brief overview of what they can find in that book?
Faith and Finances, of course. So the premise is we really can't divorce our faith from our finances. There's a lot of timeless principles that help guide. There's our way of thinking, and there's God's way of thinking. And so it really is a primer in starting at the foundation of how to view money, and then wisdom in handling money, and even principles that are counterintuitive. For instance, give, and it will be given unto you. Like, what? Wait, what?
Yeah.
So that's the premise of Faith and Finances, eternal promises for today's resources. So that's very Bible-based, unapologetically, and a lot of churches are using it as in small groups as like a curriculum that they'll go over in the next 12 weeks or so. So I'm grateful for the help that it is being.
Awesome. And the second book, Against the Grain, love it, and taught me, it was a really good refresher as I was looking to invest after I got out of my debt. Going, okay, let me go back and read everything that Tim wrote down in Against the Grain about investing. Would you mind giving a brief overview of that book?
Yes, this one is very practical. Against the Grain, the title is Against Conventional Wisdom. This was born out of a frustration over 20 years of sitting down with the prospective clients and their families and constantly hearing, well, you know what they say, pay off your mortgage here real quick, and they say max out your 401k, they say you only live once, and whatever it is they say, it normally does not turn out to the benefit of the individual. So I took an investigative approach to this. If you follow conventional wisdom, how do you end up? And so then I bring you through the reader through this sequence. If you follow conventional wisdom, this is what happens. Are you cool with that? If not, here's time to change your course. Here's some alternatives. Alternatives to maxing out your 401k, which is going to be 100% taxable when you need it. Alternatives to just taking all your extra money and paying down your mortgage. So some more benefits and perhaps a different route to take to benefit you more than being in a hurry to pay down your mortgage. And this also deals step by step with how to get out of debt. A little background of the credit card industry, how they were deregulated, how they don't love you, and to help you have the right view of credit and how to save as well. So it handles those three conventional wisdoms, turns it around, and gives you alternative courses to take.
Love it. And then the brand new one, who, I'll be honest with you, Tim, I confessed before we started recording, I have not read it yet. So
it's okay.
The newest book, Multiply.
Yeah, this one was the longest in the work. It's the biggest, and I took the most care in just really being careful with how I handled this. There is, if you've ever read any allegory stories like The Richest Man in Babylon and such, where there's a story to kind of guide you, there's a story to kind of guide us in ancient and timeless biblical principles. And it's based on the parable of the talents, where the faithful took the boss's wealth and they doubled it. Well, how did they do that? And we put you in their sandals. If you just received wealth, what's the first steps that you take? What mistakes did you make? Who did you go seek wisdom from? How much scripture was available? What did you invest in? And so then we learn principles that are applicable today, timeless principles, and then we learn the practical. What does that look like today? Because you don't find terms like mutual fund in the Bible, okay?
Yeah.
So how do we take these principles and apply it today? So literally, this is a step-by-step biblical approach on how to invest.
I love it. I love it. And then Tim, for people that want to get in contact with you, have a conversation with you, maybe even work with you directly, how can they reach out to you? How can they connect with you?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you, Alex. As you've known for years, I haven't done really any marketing, and you're the key to marketing. I've just really been focusing on helping and serving my existing clients and giving them great service. I don't mind at all, since you've given us this platform of addressing questions. Email would be great, Tim at FinCompass. So that's Financial Compass abbreviated, FIN Compass, COMPASS.org. And you could be as you listening, you can be as transparent as you want. I'm going to be careful not to give specific, hey, invest in this and invest in that, because I'm licensed as an advisor, not a salesperson. So I'm a fiduciary. I'm held to the highest ethical standards to advise as to what is best for my clients, not from an agenda of, hey, if I recommend this, I'll get this kickback. So that's how I serve, and I'm glad to take those questions and entertain, and perhaps there would be a person or two where we are actually a good match, and I can bring some solutions to the table.
Awesome. So Tim at fincompass.org. That'll be in the podcast notes as well, so you guys can reach out to him. You can also friend him or follow his page on Facebook. He travels not just the country, but the world, speaking at different churches. Tim, I really appreciate you being on the show. Always good to chat with you. You've guided me so well, and so I don't know if delicately is the right term, but you've been really nice in addressing mistakes that I've made in the past. So I appreciate you and your friendship. Thanks again. I'll talk to you later, Tim.
Thank you.
Well, that was fun. I love chatting with Tim. I'm thrilled that he is in my corner, helping me make the most of my money and the opportunities that are out there. He gave his contact information there at the very end on how to reach out to him. I recommend that you do that. If you have any other questions for him, feel free to reach out. If you have any questions for me, feel free to reach out at alex@brenningroup.com. And this was so fun. So I'd love to hear your feedback. Feel free to shoot me a message over Facebook, Instagram, or email and let me know what you thought.